My guest today is Michelle Anhang. She is a certified coach from Toronto. So I'd love to hand over to you, Michelle, so that you can tell us more about you.
Thank you. Well, first, I want to start off by thanking you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, I am a certified coach, and I specialize in supporting people with different mental health challenges. I take a holistic view of mental health. I feel like our system is a little bit lacking in support. Often people are just given medication and good luck if you have therapy and off you go. And we're left, not really knowing much about what to do. So I look at mental health more from the holistic perspective of how can we create a lifestyle that supports our mental health, that builds on our mental health. And it's a much more empowering way of living.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I think it isn't. It's not just about the physical. It's not just about the emotional or the mental side of it. We are a whole, therefore we need to treat the whole and not in isolation. So I'm with you all the way. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you're going to share your story with us today. And I feel that it starts as a very sad story and very traumatic, because at the age of 34, you became a widow. So would you be happy to share with us what happened?
Of course. So yes, 15 years ago, I was 34, and I lost my husband by suicide. He had been suffering from severe mental illness. Now looking back, I think it was a good part of his life, but really he only received the diagnosis about 2.5 years before he passed. And at that point, it had progressed quite a bit. And, till they figured out the medications, the treatments, he was feeling a lot like a guinea pig and was not feeling any better. And sadly, he gave up hope. The two of us actually had grown up together. We knew each other since we were 8, and were together since we were 18. So really together a long time, and growing up in the same community where mental health was just not talked about, and suicide was not talked about. So other than the immediate family and a few close friends, nobody knew what we were going through while he was alive. And then when he passed away, as the family was gathering, one of the family members turned to me and said, "What will we tell people?" And, it was that initial like, and of course, all the thoughts go through my head. Suicide is a little different for the survivors than other forms of death. There is a lot of shock. There is that wondering. And I think anybody who has had anyone in their life die by suicide, whether it's, a close family member or an old high school friend, we always think, what could I have done? How could I have done better? And then, here it is, this shock and this, perceived guilt and some shame around it. And so, it was like, I don't know. And when they said, "Hey, why don't we say he died in an accident?" I was very quick to agree. And my husband and I have 2 sons, and they were 7 and 4 at the time. And, in my head, I justified it, aside from everything else, also how, I can barely understand this. How do I explain it to my little children? And so, at the time, I thought that was the right thing to do. But 10 years into carrying this secret and this lie, and having it nearly destroy me and my own mental health, I realized, I have to get this out. I have to let go of it. I had done a lot of healing work along the way, but of course, never wanted to touch that area, because it was like, I don't know what to do about it or how to deal with it. But, reached a point where it was just like, this something has to change. And that's when I shared my story and got into the work that I'm doing now.
Wow. And I just feel for you I can't imagine what it was like. You in a very vulnerable position where you couldn't make any sense of it, let alone trying to find that making sense of what happened, the loss of someone so close to you, and then how do you explain it? And then you're not in a position to actually say, well, no, I don't want to say that. It's you're caught on the hop, and that's suggested to you in a community where you knew so well suicide would not be acceptable to be talked about.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, just to illustrate how ingrained it is, once we made that decision that, okay, let's say he died in an accident, when we were, the family and close family friends were already all gathered together. And when we said, this is what we're telling people, every single one of them was like, oh, of course. Nobody said, no, don't do that. Maybe it's not a good idea. We should think about this. Everyone was just like, oh, of course, of course we're going to do this. It was the obvious, it seemed like the obvious choice.
So was it that they felt that let them off the hook? It was easier for them?
I think for all of us, it was easier. Or so we thought. I didn't realize how actually much more difficult I made it for myself in carrying this lie. I couldn't grieve properly because I'm pretending to grieve an accident that was, just la-di-da. He was carrying on his day and then was in a car accident. I couldn't talk about anything, the few years before, which were very, very difficult. He hadn't been working because his disability, he had bipolar disorder and a form of schizophrenia. So between the severe mood swings, the voices, he was unable to work and had to go on disability leave. Nobody knew. So here I was taking care of two little children. I was working 2 jobs just to pay the bills and taking care of a sick husband, and nobody knew, and
so another lie.
Yeah. So that was, the life so I wasn't able to share any of that. I wasn't able to grieve any of that. Not being able to even just talk about, I did have a therapist that I could talk about, all of this, but, just not even, in the grieving and people coming and, wanting to give their condolences, and I'm needing to put on this brave face, and really just wanted to avoid talking about it altogether. And, I really barely talked about my husband after he passed because I didn't know, in what context. And then I was always worried about questions that people might ask. So it just, I was just shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller, just to, as the secret grew.
Yeah. And as you say, you couldn't grieve properly for yourself.
Yeah. So I did become severely depressed as well, just having pushed everything down.
Yeah, because as you said, there's everything that goes with that when someone does take their own life. There's all the what did I miss? Could I have done something else?
Yeah.
Why didn't I notice anything?
Yeah.
All of that stuff that goes along with it, which is unrealistic. We know.
Yes.
However, it doesn't stop that beating yourself up.
Yeah. And there's anger that comes with it too.
Yes.
There, I had a lot of anger of I remember thinking like, wow, you left, but I have to pick up all the pieces now. I have to tell the children. I have to raise them alone. It to me, being, feeling very victimized by it at the time, it was like, this isn't fair. It felt like, you took the easy way out. Of course it wasn't, but, it felt like I didn't get a choice in this. I didn't see it coming. And now, I'm here picking up all the pieces financially, now being, the sole parent for the kids, the sole provider, doing all of that. I mean, I was already doing that, but in a very, it was very different. So there were those emotions too that I, could not even go near for many years.
Oh, and that anger, it wouldn't arise if it had been an accident. So
Right.
there was no way you could express that anger.
Yeah.
I mean, not that. I wonder whether you have, since you've been able to, be authentic and share the true story, have you felt it easier to express your anger?
Definitely. It's, for me, I had to go through a process, in my healing, when I decided that, I'm going to become public with this and go through the work. I did have to go through the grieving process all over again. I knew that I knew everything that was held inside. So yes, the sadness as well as the anger. I had a wonderful therapist at the time, who had actually, a massage table with lots of cushions on it and a baseball bat. And she, it was like, okay, let it out, just pound that thing. And so getting it out. Rage rooms are wonderful for people who, are feeling the anger. And I, support a number of people who have had family members die by suicide. And that's the one thing that they always feel that shame of talking about, the anger. And I will raise it. I will say, and I bet there's some anger too. And then all of a sudden it comes out and it's like, okay, unleash it with me. It's safe here, and just vent. Tell them everything that you're angry at. And I always encourage them, get it out of your body as well. Whether you're punching pillows, using a baseball bat like I did on the pillows, whatever it is, it does need to be released from our bodies as well.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you about the baseball bat and the pillows. Different situation, but the first time I experienced it, one of my friends took me into her bedroom and she said, right, there's the bat, now hit the bed. And I hadn't realized to what degree there was so much pent up emotion in there. I didn't feel it, but wow, when I started, boy, did it let out.
Yes.
And you tell people to do it and they go, what? But actually it's so therapeutic.
Yes.
And the only thing I say to clients is just be careful you don't use a feather pillow and it bursts.
Right. Although that could be quite cathartic too, just seeing the explosion. Yeah, I actually had signed up as well for mixed martial arts. So I was doing kickboxing, and there was a lot that came out. I mean, but it was years of holding it in. So being able to put on gloves and having somebody holding up a pad or being fully padded and just being able to punch and kick and scream and do whatever it was such a great release.
Yeah, and not just the anger, is it? This is the stress, the upset, the hurt, everything. The pain, everything. Yeah, it does release an awful lot of emotions. I think I think that's great that you did that. And I'd second that. It's just amazing. So gosh, so those 10 years and with your children being so young, I can't imagine what that was like for you, just going from day to day, but trying to cope with it.
Yeah, I went on autopilot. That was really the only way I could survive. It was just, put one foot in front of the other, get through the day, and tomorrow start again, put one foot in front of the other. Don't think about it. Just, really wearing blinders, just get through this day.
Yeah. So did you have a therapist from the beginning, or was it a little way in? When did you start working with a therapist?
So I was already involved in different, I was seeing a therapist at the time and doing group work while my husband was alive through the treatment center that he was going to. They had support for family members. So it was from the beginning. And then off and on. I found, I would go through therapy, kind of peel a bunch of layers of the onion. And then it was like, okay, take a little break and then back again. So off and on over the years. But after the initial loss, and, I was working with a great therapist at the time for that as well, just for dealing with, how I felt, because I felt so abandoned. And I remember, just saying, how will I do this without him? And she knew, what my life was like at the time. And she said, it was like you had 3 children and now you only have 2. And you're going to be fine because you have been the adult and the parent all this time. And, it was a great perspective shift for me in that moment of like, oh yeah, I have been doing it. And it it wasn't so okay, but I was doing it. Yes.
Yeah. But it gave you a different perspective.
Yeah.
Wow. Gosh, that's a lot to do. I mean, even just becoming a widow at 34, it's huge on its own. The children is another added layer to all of that, and the way that your husband died. Let alone all the stigma that goes with it, just not the mental health, but then suicide. Yeah. So I have to congratulate you for what you've been through and how you've got through it, and that you are prepared to share it with others, because that takes a lot of courage.
Thank you. It, it just evolved that way of, doing my own healing and realizing this isn't my shame to carry. No. It was really that I could let it go, and seeing that, just again, the impact it had on my life, and saying that this isn't worth it. Like for what? So that people aren't going to judge me, and just realizing like it doesn't matter. The people who will judge me are going to judge me regardless. and people did. It was very interesting because, I was very quiet and people made up stories about that and like what that meant. So, people will think what they want regardless. But for me, once I came out with the truth and also realized that so much of the judgment that I was fearing didn't actually even materialize, that just, again, fueled me. I started telling people, slowly gathering up the courage, people that I felt would be able to receive it well, and people that I didn't know so well, that if it didn't go, if they didn't receive it in the way I hoped, that's okay. We're not that close anyways. It doesn't matter to me too much. And then I reached a point where I posted it on Facebook. And figured, that's the best way really to let everyone know and get the secret out. You want something public, put it on social media. And it was terrifying. And at the same time, seeing the responses and the amount of love that I got back from my post. I cried the whole day. They were good tears. Just the responses to the post, phone calls, emails, messages, so much encouragement that, I realized this is the work that I need to be doing in the world of supporting people here, that, this is turning, my pain into my purpose, so that I could help other people get out of a situation if they're in something like this, or again, just empowering them around their mental health, because I felt so disempowered through my experience.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. And it is all about that fear and shame and embarrassment, which I think related to anything around mental health is what people generally feel. I shouldn't be like this. I should be strong.
Yeah.
I can't bear the embarrassment. I can't bear the shame. And we hear so often that pull yourself together.
Yes.
Yeah. Put your big girl pants on, stop being a wuss, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And it's, I've talking to somebody the other day and they said, well, they just need to kick up the bum. I went, what don't you understand about any of this?
Yeah.
Because Nobody wants to stay in that place.
Yeah, I say that all the time. We're not choosing this way of life.
Absolutely not. We're doing whatever we need to do at that particular point to survive.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is that coping with that disempowerment. So, gosh, that is a really, I think, yeah, very inspiring story, because you've gone on to help other people, which is amazing. And you are also, you go and talk, you give up talks, you appear on podcasts like this one,
yes,
which I'm very grateful for. So thank you for sharing this. But yes, yeah, I think you're, yeah, helping people so much, which is, yeah, admirable. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much.
So, gosh, is there anything you want to share with people? I mean, is there something I haven't asked you that you might say, you know what, that's one thing I'd really want to kind of let people know about, or that you haven't asked me, Wendy, or I haven't talked about yet?
I think we've covered quite a bit. I think really, the one key piece that I want to, share, and, I guess my message for people is, if you're in this kind of situation, speak to somebody, speak to anybody, don't hold this in. That's one piece. And the second part is be discerning in the beginning about who you're talking to. I'm a fan of Brene Brown, and she always says, people have to earn that trust, and it's true. And so, if you're wanting to talk about your mental health, definitely talk to somebody, or talk to many people. But if you're looking for support, you don't want to reach out to the person who can't be with their own mental health, or feel some shame around that. You want to be with somebody that will be open to giving you the support that you need. So always being selective about who we're talking to.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly, because there's nothing worse than just being dismissed, or they can't deal with it. So you're going to just drive yourself into even worse depression, shame, trauma, whatever else.
Yeah, because we never look at it as like, oh, it's their thing. We're then like, oh, and this is why I shouldn't be talking about it, but it's not true. So,
yeah, and I think that's a great piece of advice. I think that part is, that is really good, because you're right. It is their stuff, and it shouldn't shut us up.
Yes.
Because otherwise we do carry around more shame.
Yes.
We don't need to. So, yeah. Wow. So it's been a delight talking to you today, Michelle. I thank you so much. I'm going to share all your details in the show notes on the webpage. But what's one easy way that people can get in touch with you and learn more about you?
The easiest way is through my website, which is michelleanhang.com. And I'm also all over social media. So you can look me up, connect with me. Always happy to hear from listeners. And, if anything touched you, or, any way that you want to connect, I would be happy to hear from you.
Okay, thank you so much. I think, yes, I think it's been an inspiring story. And equally, thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you.